Hey guys, Key-Forger here, and I'm bringing you guys a new series. This is going to be called Key-Unforged. This is where I'm going to break down decks to the basics. I'm going to show you guys what the deck is good at, breakdown of the creatures, the actions, upgrades, artifacts, tell you what this deck is really good against, tell you what's really bad against. And the cool part is I'm going to allow people to send me their deck list via the app or the name of the character so I can search it up. And I'll be able to break down those decks as well. Tell you what I think about the deck itself, and go over a few of the bits. For now, I'm just going to do my decks and my friends' decks, just to see if the series does take off. But feel free to send a deck list down in the underbar. Give me the name of your guy, and I can search it up and start making some of these videos. So I'll have some in the future. But yeah, so I'm going to break down my favorite deck, and a deck I've been playing with quite a bit, and that is King Kelly. If you watched yesterday's video, you'll see that I had beaten Vin pretty handily. I've played this deck about 10 times, and I've yet to lose. My friends have banned me. My wife has banned me from using this deck because they just don't have fun while I'm playing this deck. The great part about this deck is that it will just take all the amber that you ever owned, and you will not be able to forge any keys. I faced Vin's second place deck, in which that deck is just a turbo deck where you just forge key, forge key, forge key. Yeah, he got 1 key in 2 games. That's why he will not allow me to play this deck anymore. The video you saw yesterday was the first time I ever played this deck. Spoiler alert, that was recorded last week. Since then, I have played this deck quite a bit, like I said. But yeah, so I'm just going to straight up break down the deck for you guys, tell you guys what I like, maybe some of the combos, things like that. So without further ado, this is King Kelly. Here, we're going to start off with our stealing creatures. We're going to go creatures, we're going to go into the actions and the upgrades. This is a very control-oriented deck, as you will see, though, unlike Magic, where a control deck is 99% spells, and then you got a few creatures to end the game and be able to win the game. This deck actually has 21 creatures, has a huge creature amount, gives you tons of board presence, and it allows your opponent to... it doesn't allow your opponent to do anything. It makes it so your opponent has to make a decision, and if they can't make the correct decision, they're just going to lose the game. And I'll explain a little bit more of that in a second. But first, we have our steel creatures. We have 2 Dodgers, and then we have Naughty the Thief. Naughty the Thief is really good. It's just an action steal and it has elusive. He's going to sit on the board usually, and you're just going to be able to keep using that action to steal because nobody's really going to try to take him. Then we have 2 Dodgers, who is pretty much one of our biggest beaters in the deck. He's going to give us a little bit more of that range and allow us to kill creatures that we might otherwise not be able to deal with. So we don't have too much creature removal, but we do have ways to disrupt our opponent's creatures. So those are going to be our stealing package right there. It's not bad. It's a really good play, especially if you can play all 3 out on the same turn. And next we have our capture package. This is where our deck really shines. This and the utility creatures, which will be after this. These capture creatures are very good. You have a charrette. I wish there was 2 charrettes in this deck, but 1 charrette is absolutely insane, especially because you use a lot of cards each turn with this deck, and you're able to overextend without having to really worry. And charrette's one of those cards that will get recycled back to your deck, and you'll be able to draw again and play it in pretty good situations. And along with charrette, we do have 2 Drubble. Drubble will capture all if your opponent has 7 or more. So I had one turn where this had 18 on it. Using Hysteria, because I bounced everything back to the hand. I had tons of captured amber, went back to my wife, I played 1 Drubble, and then I captured all of it back, and she wasn't too happy. But it's extremely good. The main engine of this card, and the main card that will take advantage of a game, even though it might not seem like it, is Grabber Jammer. Grabber Jammer is the #1 card in this deck, and I absolutely love this card. Your opponent's keys cost +1, so that's just a passive ability. That's going to make it hard for your opponent to be able to forge their key, especially if you get 1 or 2 of these out. Their keys are going to cost 8, and it's very hard for them with this deck to gain 8. And on top of that, whenever you fight or reap, you're capturing 1. It's a 4 power with 1 armor, so they're going to have to attack it with something 5 if they don't want their guy to die, and to kill this in 1 hit. but it's just extremely good card, and your opponent has to deal with it pretty quickly. But we have ways of just readying it on the first turn and be able to reap and capture an amber and gain an amber for ourselves. So there are ways around it, which is extremely good. And the number one capturer in our whole deck is Ether Spider. So whenever any amber would be added to your opponent's pool, you actually just capture it all. This really works well if you have a Drebble out. You can play this out next turn. They kill the Drebble. All that amber goes back onto this, because it doesn't say when your opponent gains amber. It's whenever amber will be added to their pool. So no matter if they steal or, you know, captured, goes back to their pool, it goes on to Ether Spider. And before I get into the utilities, this isn't a capture creature, but this helps protect all your capture creatures. And that is the one Shadow Self. Shadow Self just takes the damage, especially for Ether Spider. Neither of them do damage, but you want to be able to protect your Ether Spider so you can keep gaining and taking the amber until you have enough to play the Drebble or archive the Drebble, which we do have ways of doing that as well. And then you can have one humongous turn where you take all their amber after they kill both Shadow Self and Ether Spider. They have to do 16 points of damage. That's a lot of utility that they're wasting to kill two creatures, which gives this deck so much reach. Next, we're going to get into the utility creatures. After you capture all your opponent's amber, of course, they're not going to have any. You're going to steal whatever, you're going to capture whatever, then you're going to play a Terror. Terror just, when your opponent has none, gain 2. I use this card so many times, and you have ways to recur it and do it multiple times in a single turn, which is extremely good. Then we have 2 Bad Pennies, probably the ultimate utility creature. When it is destroyed, return Bad Penny to your hand. So this goes really good because we do have a Seeker Needle. Seeker Needle kills this off. We gain 1. People usually don't kill Bad Penny, so you play Bad Penny, you reap. You Seeker Needle, you're gaining 2 amber off of 1 Bad Penny. You play Bad Penny again. It allows you to change your flanks as well. So if they have a lot of cards that damage flanks, you could throw a Bad Penny on that flank just to prevent that creature from being hit from those effects. So extremely good in that way as well. We have Mind Warper. Mind Warper says use an action to put 1 amber on your opponent's side. So this is extremely good. We have ways to bounce. We have Hysteria in our deck to bounce all of our opponent's creatures. If you can use Mind Warper a couple of times and put a bunch of amber on their creatures and then just use, Hysteria, you're going to gain a little bit of amber. Even if it's a few, it's still better than nothing. And as well, if you put on a couple of their creatures that need to attack each turn into some of your other stuff, like your Grabber Jammers and things like that, then you're going to just gain free amber off of that. Or you could just reap with him. There's nothing wrong with that either. So he's just a pretty good utility creature. He's probably the weakest card in the deck, but he's alright. Then we have Zix the Many. Zix the Many is extremely good. So every time you either fight and he survives or reap with him, you may reveal a creature card from your hand. If you do, archive it. So this is going to be the way that we get our Drebbles. I keep opening right up to it. It's impressive. Our Drebbles into our archive so we can have those big turns. You also want to get rid of a card that I'm going to show next, which is our Ember Imps. So you put the Drebble and the Ember Imps into the archive. Use Hysteria. You drop the Drebble, take all of their stuff. You drop the Ember Imp, they can only play 2 cards. You probably have check on board usually when you're going to do that as well. So they have to deal with your Amber, deal with the Ember Imp, and deal with the Drebble. So it's very tough for your opponent to make that decision, and it gives them the opportunity to make a mistake, like I was saying earlier. That's like the biggest deal with this deck, is giving your opponent the opportunity to make mistakes. All right. And then we have a Sneck Lifter, who just steals your opponent's artifacts. They become Shadow. Really good with like Babble or a Dominator Bauble, which we also have one in our deck. And there's a couple other cards that this is extremely good with. You can even use it to steal something that they might use to take advantage of the game. Like the Brotherhood that makes it so you can use all your Sanctum creatures. Really good just to steal it with this and keep it on your side forever. So he's extremely good. Then we have 1 Snudge. Snudge is whenever you reap or fight, return an artifact or flank creature to its owner's hand. It's extremely good because you can use this to bounce maybe a damaged creature like an Ether Spider. You kind of don't want to do it on Ether Spider, but more of a Shadow Self, which right there, look at, I'm like pro at this. Shadow Self, so you can heal up the Shadow Self, play it again. It's a very good combo there. You can also use it to just bounce one of their creatures. Maybe you have something where they had captured 3 or 4 amber on that, like a charrette. Bounce it back to the hand. You're going to call check. They're probably going to have to play Dis next turn, even if they don't have good options. So, once again, gives your opponent the opportunity to make a mistake. And then the last creature we have is Stealer of Souls. It's after an enemy creature is destroyed fighting him, you purge that creature and gain 1 amber. He's extremely good at getting rid of Bulwarks, as well as any of those 5-power, the 5-power Sanctum cards, because Sanctum is very strong against this deck, because we don't have direct damage or ways to get rid of their armor. So this is our main way of dealing with it, is using Stealer Souls and purging it, and then when he dies, and then we end up getting him back, or we return him with the Hysteria as well, to be able to recur him and do some more damage. But yeah, so that's our creature package. There's a lot of synergy. There's a lot of synergy with this, with our action cards and stuff like that, and we'll get into that. Next, we do have 2 upgrades in this deck. So we do have Dusk Runner. Dusk Runner is, this creature gains Reap, Steal 1. This is an extremely good card on our Grabber Jammer. So you play it on Grabber Jammer reaps, you capture 1, you steal 1, and you, as well as their keys cost 1 more. So you're getting them -2, and they still have to pay 7 for 1 key. And speaking about cards that are good on Grabber Jammer, once again, that's the main engine of this deck, is Grabber Jammer. We have Ring of Visibility. Creature gains Elusive and Skirmish. You put this onto one of your Grabber Jammers, you can attack. You can attack every single turn, dealing damage to a creature, as well as gaining or capturing an amber. So you can have a ton of utility with 2 Grabber Jammers and these 2 cards. You're going to call Mars a lot just for these, and Zix the Many. Zix the Many could just reap, and you can archive cards, so you're still drawing stuff. So there are a couple of options to use there, and you're going to be able to capture and gain amber every turn. So even if you aren't drawing tons of cards, you're still gaining such an advantage that your opponent has to deal with. But those 2 cards are extremely good on Grabber Jammer. And Ring of Visibility is actually pretty good on Ether Spider as well, because they have to attack it with 2 creatures, do a lot of damage. It's pretty good. All right, so next we have Artifacts. We have Dominator Babble. When we play Dis, we're able to use our Zix the Many or our Grabber Jammers. Just good card. This is one of my favorite cards. I think the utility of it is just extremely good. Then we have that Seeker Needle I was talking about earlier. Going to kill our bad pennies, do extra damage to their creatures. Like I said, they have to attack Grabber Jammer with a 5-power. This will get rid of it on the next turn. You gain an amber. So, you lose a Grabber Jammer, but you do gain something in return. And then a great card with Hysteria is Life Word. They're playing a creature-heavy deck. You use Hysteria, return all their creatures. You play, Drebble, get all their stuff. And then you play Ember Imp. They can only play 2 cards. And then you sacrifice your Life Word. And now they can't play creatures either. So they are so many turns behind that you are just taking such an advantage. They have to deal with your Amber. They have to deal with the Ember Imp. They have to deal with the Drebble. And they can't do it all. So, Life Word, in my opinion, should be a rare card. Should be a rare card. But it's not, unfortunately. I have a deck with 2 of those. Pretty good. All right, so next, like I've been talking about, is the 2 Hysteria. Play, just return each creature on the battlefield to its owner's hand. If they take control of one of your creatures somehow or anything like that, goes back to your hand. Pretty good. Hysteria, best card. Second best card of the deck. Grabber Jammer, best card. This second best card. Really good. Just tons of utility. Tons of reach. Just gives you that push that you need. Next, we have Pawn Sacrifice. One of the best cards with Bad Penny. You're able to sacrifice Bad Penny and do 3 damage to 2 creatures. This just goes very well with the whole theme of the deck. Just gives you a little bit more reach to kill some creatures. Like I said, we don't have many ways to do that. We're trying to reap every turn. And then since we are capturing all of our opponent's Amber and stealing some of it, we have a Ghostly Hand, which I have used quite a few times to just steal 1 and gain the additional 2. So you're gaining 3 Amber off this card. Absolutely, absolutely insane. So, yep, really good. Okay, next is going to be the best, probably best support card that we have by far. We have 3 Squawker. Squawker is ready a Mars creature or stun a non-Mars creature. So you have the utility of being able to stop one of their creatures, or with Grabber Jammer, you're able to reap twice in a turn, capturing 2 and gaining 2 amber for yourself. Plus this amber, that's 3. You have Zix the Many. This is a good way to get rid of multiple creatures from your hand from a different house, like the Ember Imp and the Drubble, especially early game. And gain an amber, and you're going to reap for 2, so you're going to gain 3 no matter what. You can use it to attack, anything like that. This just gives you a ton of reach with your Mars creatures. It is extremely good. And if you are behind, you can stun some of their good creatures. I have not yet done that because I've been ahead every game I've played. So it's yet to be seen. Probably the worst card in the deck. I know I said that about the other guy. Well, I say he's the worst creature. The worst card is Sample Collection. It's an extremely good card. You put an enemy creature into your archives for each key your opponent forged. Unfortunately, we don't really let our opponent forge any keys. I've used this card once. I've been able to use this card once, I should say. So, not that great. And then we have Mothership Support, which just gives you 1. And then for each friendly Mars-readied creature, deal 2 damage to a creature. You're usually going to do 2, maybe 4 damage with this. Not too much. Depends on how many Grabber Jammers you've gotten and they haven't killed. But it's not a bad card. It gives you amber, and it just gives you a little bit of reach on killing those creatures or getting rid of the armor on Bulwark or something like that so you can attack it with your Grabber Jammer. This Grabber Jammer does survive that. So it's pretty good. And the card that just puts everything over the top and gives you these humongous creatures and can give you this humongous turn is Martian Hounds. So if you haven't seen this card, we have a lot of creatures in our deck, as you saw, and a lot of them have pretty low life, but, you know, they might take 1 or 2 damage, but choose a creature. For each damage creature, give the chosen creature +2 +1 power counters. So I was playing my wife. She played a card that said do 2 damage to each undamaged creature. There were 11 creatures out. I played this on my Grabber Jammer, made him a 26 power creature that she could not deal with. So it was a lot of fun. She got really mad, but I really liked it. It was a very good, you know, it felt good to play. Even if you're giving your guy +2, it's still really, really strong. Still really, really strong. So Grabber Jammer is going to be what you're going to want to play most of the time. And if you have any of these in your hand, you're going to be able to gain huge advantage over your opponent, allowing you to take their amber, steal their amber, you know, fight their creatures, do all kinds of fun stuff. And you can follow it up by playing some Drubbles if they have a lot, you know, the Ember Imps on the Hysteria, because these are going to be your main cards. So this is what a turn might look like. 1 turn, play the Grabber Jammer, play one of these, you know, capture, steal their stuff. They gain a bunch of amber. They can't get rid of this, and then let's say that's gone. And then you use Hysteria. You pick up your archives. Let's say these are archived. This is out. You use Hysteria, return all the creatures. You're playing the Drubble. You steal all of their amber, or you capture it all. And you play the Ember Imp, and you sacrifice the Life Ward. And now, what are they supposed to do? They can only play 2 cards. You're probably so far ahead, and there's just nothing you could do. And if you have a Terror as well, you play a Terror, you're gaining 2 amber. So this would be what your board looks like. You usually want to have these on the outside if they're playing Dis. If they are playing Shadows, you probably want Drubble on the inside because they have stuff that hits the flanks. Same with Sanctum. So know what your opponent has. If they have Punch, it don't matter. They're gonna just kill they're usually going to kill the Drubble. Or they might kill the Emperor, but it's very unlikely. Yeah, but the main weakness of this deck that I can see is Sanctum, just the armor. It's very hard for this deck to get over the armor. If you have any way of stealing or capturing more amber than I am, you're probably going to win that as well, especially if you have some big beaters like Brobnar in that deck. But this deck is very strong against fast amber gaining decks, which a lot of people are trying to play because it's very easy to play and you can win a lot of games just by out ambering your opponent. Especially since the game is newer, a lot of people don't know how to control the board or don't understand how to use control decks yet. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But this deck is very controlling, destroys those decks, is really good against mid-range decks because that's what my wife's is. But decks that have big beaters and Sanctum and are able to capture some amber, this deck does have seems like it will have a little rough time against. I haven't really faced one of those yet, but yeah, so I might be going to a tournament on December 13th? Sometime in December. I don't know, I might be working. We'll see. I'm going to bring this deck. You have to bring 4 decks. I'm going to bring this. I'm going to bring the Horseman deck, and I'm yet to decide on the other 2. And we'll see how it goes. I'm going to use King Kelly in the last round. What else? And then the December 29th, I'm definitely going to a tournament where I will be bringing King Kelly. And I should win that tournament if I play my cards right. But, yeah, you can't know until you're doing it. But, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Key-Unforged. If you did, make sure you guys do rate, subscribe, comment. Feel free to send me your deck list so I can check them out. Like I said, I'll do some people's deck lists in the future. Maybe not right away, but I'll definitely bank them and be able to do that. So, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys later.